And we're back here at Boom Bust with our monthly panel. Gary Marr, we're talking a little bit about the U.S. trade. Joe Oliver seems to suggest that some activities or actions by a future Trump administration will be positive in terms of our ability to supply energy needs and so on. What's your take on everything?
Well, back in the 1970s, going back 50 years, President Nixon put a 10% tariff on things, imports into the United States. And at that time, there was a big rallying cry that Canada needs to diversify its marketplaces. As we all know, we haven't gone that far in terms of diversification. In fact, some of the places that we've chosen to try and diversify to, we've actually, from a geopolitical point of view, really messed things up vis-a-vis, and I'm speaking specifically about India and China. But in terms of energy exports, look, I think that we need to change the dialogue of how we say, we're your biggest energy importer. JD Vance has often said that, oil production in Ohio, we're the seventh largest oil producer in the United States. I don't want imports taking jobs away from people in the Ohio uh, oil and gas business. So, fine. What we should say is that we export jobs in a pipeline because I've been to those refineries in Lima, Ohio, and the Marathon refinery in Detroit, and the refinery in Denver that's owned by Suncor. And if you go to LNG plants that are on the Gulf Coast, we export oil and gas, and those jobs are created in places in the United States where they're upgraded and value added in those places, not in Canada. So I think that there is an opportunity to take advantage of this. I would comment that the recent decision of the federal government to put an emissions cap on the oil and gas industry is the wrong decision. Minister Guilbeault says that there's a business case where people want green oil, but we're not selling our oil to Europe. We're selling it to the United States, and they care little. Any U.S. president has to have a sort of a range of oil prices. It's got to be high enough so that domestic production has a reason to be encouraged, but it can't be too high for gas prices at the pump
Right.
that consumers are going to reject. So we can make the case that oil sands derived transportation fuels are affordable. Now, not compared to Saudi Arabia, but they are a reasonably low cost alternative. And it can come to the United States not in a tanker that has to be guarded by the U.S. Seventh Fleet in order to get out of dangerous waters, but it comes to them in a transportation system that doesn't move called a pipeline. And so there may be, as Joe suggests, an opportunity for selling more energy, oil and gas to the United States, but it may also result in Canadians looking at other pipelines where we could export to other countries. And I'm thinking specifically about, Northern Gateway as a project that would have taken more oil off the coast of British Columbia. Just in terms of economic impact, the Bank of Canada estimated that once the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion was completed, it added 0.25% starting in Q2 of this year to the GDP of Canada. That doesn't sound like a big number until you realize it's 0.25% of a nearly $3 trillion GDP. So this is material, and we don't need one TMX. We need several projects like that. We need more projects like LNG Canada, which will also have a material impact in the GDP of Canada. And the last point is this: is we are a trading nation,
Right.
but I'm never tired of quoting Premier Canoe, who says the economic horse is what pulls the cart for the social programs we need and want. So he understands wealth redistribution. All governments do, but what he really understands is that you got to create wealth in order to have wealth to redistribute. And so, getting the economic engines of Canada going, perhaps a new administration in the United States will provide the incentive and the impetus and the kick in the pants that Canada needs to increase its productivity, diversify its marketplaces, and be competitive in a way that is consistent with what the United States needs and wants out of their industry as well.
Sandra, I'd like to come back to you after the break and talk a little bit about competitiveness issues. I know you care about those as well. We'll have a brief break. We'll be back with our guests very soon. Stay with us.